Hi all, welcome to Security and Privacy in Cloud. I'm Jay Lavanya, Assistant Professor of CS Department. So today we are going to see the Unit 3, Access Control and Identity Management. Under this, we are going to see the topic on Role-Based Access Control, that is RBAC. So let us all dive into the topic. So role-based access control. So it is widely used method for managing the access to resources in cloud environments. It ensures that only authorized users can access specific resources or it can perform certain actions based on the roles assigned to them. RBAC is crucial for enforcing the principle of least privilege, ensuring that the users have only the permission necessary to perform their job functions. And apart from that, RBAC has so many specifications. Let us see one by one. So RBAC, the workflow is that it has some specific range and it's a security approach that authorizes only some special cases like for implementing, maintaining and extending some needs for the organization. And why we are going for RBAC is that it allows user to access the data and applications needed to fulfill their job requirements and minimize the risk of unauthorized employees. And the main core component of RBAC is that role assignment, role authorization, permission authorization. So what is meant by role assignment is that a subject can exercise a permission only if the subject has selected or been assigned a role. So role authorization is that here a subjective active role must be authorized, and permission authorization is that here a subject can only exercise a permission which is authorized for the subject to act his role. And there are so many like example. If you take for example, Steve some oversees a youth hockey team. It's composed of players, coaches, referees and seller. Even in a basic organization, complex rights and responsibilities exist, right? So players need to access the locker room and the ice rink, and while the referee needs to access only to the ice, and the coach must create and share a roster of players, including contact information and so on. The person selling concession interacts with the items for sale, processes credit card, and collects or deposits cash. So the administrator organizes the game schedule, gathers fees from players, pays coaches and referees, and so on. So in this scenario, allocating access according to the roles is a useful approach. When a new child joins the particular hockey team, she is issued with a player uniform and a read-only copy of the roster. She is given a name and a practical schedule and a combination of her locker. So nobody has to consider whether she needs a key to the cash register or a pair of referee's orange armbands, right? Yeah, the same principle applies for a few example like in an institution. An HR manager, if you at a large enterprise and organization, he's authorized to add, change, or delete employee records for anyone in the organization, but has no access to the customer database. Okay, and another example is that a doctor at a large hospital has access to complete patient records, while the receptionists can access only the basic contact information. Okay, so the next slide defines about the basic diagram, role-based access control. So here uses some uses are there and roles. It can be of order manager, order editor, or order viewer. Okay, the permission is that the user order manager, he can able to create, he can able to read, he can able to update, and he can able to delete. Whereas if you take the order editor, he can only able to read the data and he can able to update the data. Okay, and the last order viewer, he can only able to read it. So these are the resources like post, or get or put and delete, like API orders, and based on the order ID, we can able to access, and based on the API orders order ID put command, and by using the delete command, we can able to delete. Okay, so these are the basic resources which is available. Next is that we are going to discuss about key components of RBAC. So RBAC involves three primary components. So these are the collection of permissions that define what actions a user can take on a cloud resource. Example like read, write, delete, manage, etc. Second one is that users, these are individual identities like human users, service accounts, or missions to whom the roles are assigned. Third one, the permission. What kind of permission can able to, as we have seen in the previous diagram, like there will be some set of users, and based on the user, we'll be providing some roles, right? Whether they can able to read or write or whatever. Okay. So that is called as a permission here. So these are the specific actions a user can perform on a resource, such as reading from a storage bucket, launching a compute instance, or he can able to delete a resource. Okay. So next is that RBAC workflow in cloud infrastructure. So the typical RBAC flow is as follows. The first one is that user request. The user, if he tries to access a resource, example, a virtual machine or a database in a cloud environment. Second one is that role assignment. So the user is assigned to one or more roles based on the job function or responsibilities. Example, developer, admin, or viewer. Third one is that permission evaluation. So here the cloud system checks if the user's role includes permissions for the requested action. Example, read, write, and execute. Okay. So these are the basic workflow in a cloud infrastructure. And before going into the examples, what are the access decision he can in RBAC he can able to perform is that if the role has the required permission, access is granted. If the role does not have required permission, access is denied. And RBAC model in cloud environment is like RBAC is applied in so many cloud platforms. So how it is used, let us see one by one. So first one is that AWS IAM browse. So here it provides a powerful way to define the roles and assign the permissions to the resource. An admin role, it has a broad permission to manage the AWS resources. And a developer role, he or she can create and manage the EC2 instances but cannot modify the IAM policies or access billing information. Next one is that a viewer role. So only has read-only access to resources like S3 buckets and CloudWatch logs. Next one, a permission in AWS IAM are granted through JSON. Sorry, based on some policies attached to the roles. These policies define what actions are allowed. Example like list bucket or what resource, or example S3 bucket. Okay. So these are the common, roles can be accessed in AWS: admin, developer, and then viewer role. So here you can see this optimized AWS administration, the IAM path both develops an AWS IAM path, and here it explores about the IAM path between the Lambda function, and from here we have to get the call from the Amazon DynamoDB table, and from there, once the log has been reached through the Lambda function, it has to search for the CloudWatch logs whether it is available or not. If so, the executable role has to go to the AWS IAM role, and from there the access policies will be given, like whether it can be accepted or whether it can be uh, rejected. Okay. So this is all about the AWS IAM role. And the difference between IAM roles and policies is that, so here the IAM policy defines a permission for action regardless of the method that you can able to perform the operation. So roles are a set of permission attached to a IAM user or any AWS service, whereas policies are the permission sets attached only to an IAM user. Okay, so this is all about AWS IAM. So here in Azure RBAC, it allows only the user to manage the virtual machines in a subscription and another user to manage the virtual network. Allows a DBA group to manage SQL databases in a subscription, and it allows a user to manage an application to access all the resources in a resource group. And how does it works is that I'll just show you some the diagram or some architecture. This is the RBAC. So here there will be a security principle, say like users or groups or service principle or some managed identity. So they'll be asking for requesting access to the Azure resources through the Azure AD, and can assign role to only security principles. And here a role definition is a collection of permissions, typically just a role. Okay. So here a role definition list will be uh, giving some actions that can perform such as read, write or delete, and roles can be high level like owner or some specific like a virtual machine reader. And it also has some built-in roles where the like virtual machine contributor role, it allows the user to create and manage the virtual missions. If the built-in roles don't meet the specific needs of your organization, you can create your own Azure custom roles. And also the scope is between like there will be some management group and some subscription. And based on that, there will be some resource group and there will be some so many resources which is available in the Azure. And the role assignment is that so here, the mainly it's a process of attaching a role definition to a user or group or service principal or a managed identity at a particular scope for the purpose of granting access. So access is granted by creating a role assignment and access is revoked by removing a role assignment. So example is that the marketing users don't have access to resources outside the pharma sales resource group unless they are part of another role assignment. Example is that uh, the role assignment can be a group, which means that if a user is a member of a group and that group is a member of another group, that has some roles and assignments, right? So here, basically, it has some permissions which is assigned for the role, and how to access that is that there are some certain steps has to be followed in this Azure RBAC. So the user acquires a token for the Azure Resource Manager. The token includes the user's group membership. The user make a REST API call to Azure Resource Manager with the token attached. So Azure Resource Manager retrieves all the role assignments and deny assessment that apply to the resource upon which the action is being taken. The design assignment applies, access is blocked, otherwise evaluation continues. And also like if the user don't have any role, the action it requires access isn't allowed. Otherwise, any conditions are evaluated. The role assignments include conditions, they are evaluated. Otherwise, the access is allowed. Okay. So where is Azure RBAC data stored? So main thing is that it is stored in like role definition or role assignment, whatever maybe. It's stored globally to ensure that you have access to your resources regardless of the region you created the resource. When a role assignment any other Azure RBAC data is deleted, the data is globally deleted, so you can't able to access. It may be there is a loss of resource. Okay. So next one is that Google Cloud IAM. So in Google Cloud IAM, you can able to see it uses some IAM roles that grant specific permission on some various resources like viewer, editor, and owner. And viewer in the sense can only view resources without making any changes. An editor can view and modify the resources, and the owner can view, modify, and manage permissions and billing information. Google Cloud IAM rules are predefined, but you can also create custom rules if more granular control is needed. Okay, so we'll see the specific diagram in this regard. So here in Google Cloud IAM, the user trust, there will be some cloud identity and there will be some device trust based on the endpoint verification. And here, once based on the IP address, fetching the details of who is accessing and what kind of things is happening in that particular devices. And based on that Google Cloud IAM, what it will be doing is that here based on the location and then ages. Okay, so here it will be just accessing the IAM resources, and here from there the access context manager by means of rules engine or enforcement platform and all those stuffs now will be undergoing, and to the enforcement point the Google Cloud IAP or Google Cloud IAM or Google Cloud Identity VPC or SC can able to access the web apps, VM, GCP resource, GCP API, and then G Suite. Okay. The main thing, three components as we told the previous slide: principal, role, and resource. There are variety types of principles in IAM. What is that? Two broad categories. First one is that human users and then workload. So human uses, that some IAM principal types represents human users. You use these principal types for managing your employees' access to cloud, Google Cloud resources. And the workloads, some IAM principal types represent the works. You use these principal types when managing your workloads access Google Cloud resources. And what type of permission is that? The permissions are typically represented in the form of service.resource.verb, okay? And the API methods like resource manager dot projects dot list. And the three types of roles which is already present over here is that predefined roles, custom roles, and then basic roles. So predefined role is that the roles that are managed by the Google Cloud Services, these roles contain the permissions needed to perform some common tasks for each given service. Example is that a role slash pubsub.publisher. Custom roles here, the roles that you create the contain only the permissions that you specify. You have complete control over the permissions in these kind of roles. Okay. So next, we will discuss about the types of RBAC roles. So there are so many like roles available, like predefined roles. Okay, so in specific, you will be dealing with these kind of things like predefined roles, custom roles, system-defined roles, hierarchical roles, temporary roles, or resource-based roles. Okay, so we will see one by one. So first one is that predefined roles. So here in predefined roles, the cloud provider often offers some predefined or built-in roles with a set of permission for common use access. So example like admin or developer or reader. Example like AWS administrator access, read-only access, or power user access. Okay, and Azure like owner, contributor, or reader, and Google Cloud like viewer, editor, and owner. Okay, like example if you take the create uh, and based on the customer role also, here we can able to create a customer role that allows only some specific actions on a specific set of resources, such as granting a user permission to predefined EC2 instance that allows but not all EC2 instances. Okay, so that is called as a custom role and a system defined role. So here also what we'll be doing is that based on the system we can able to provide access for the uh, users which only the people can able to access that kind of resource. Okay, and next one is that hierarchical resource. Hierarchy resource is that the real world example like AWS S3 if you take. There you have to request access to the cloud resource, and then followed by system checks user role. And if the role is assigned to a user, yes, in the sense, okay, that condition is true, then we can go for the check permission access. Else, no, in the sense, no permission will be granted. And the scenario like you can able to access the roles like uh, admin role, assign role, access check. Okay, so first attach a policy granting full access to S3, and attach a policy granting read-only access to S3, and attach a policy granting list to, but no upload or download policy. That is called as viewer role. Okay, and assign role is that assign the admin role to Elias, or you can assign the developer role to Bob, or you can able to assign the viewer role to Charlie. Okay, so whoever the admin only can able to provide access. Okay, when Elias accesses the bucket, the system checks if her role allows full access. She is granted access to read or write. Okay, when Bob accesses the bucket, his role is checked and he is granted only read access. When Charlie accesses the bucket, the system checks if his role allows only listing the contents. He is denied access to read or write, but can see the file names. Okay, and next one is that we're going to see about the temporary role, that is just-in-time access. So here for some higher security, we have to use tools that allows for temporary accesses to sensitive information. Example like elevated access only when needed. And last one but not least is that resource-based roles. So resource-based roles where for instance, an admin role can have the same permission as a contributor role, but also it includes permission to assign roles to the others. Okay, so this is all about the different types of RBAC roles. And in turn, I'll just discuss what are the advantages and drawbacks of using these kind of role-based access control. So the first one is that I'll just show you. Okay, so benefits of role-based access control is that first one, improved operational efficiency. Second one, enhanced compliance. Third one, increased visibility. Fourth one, reduced cost. Fourth one, last one, decreased risk of breaches and data leakage. What is the improved operational efficiency is that with role-based access control, companies can decrease the need for paperwork and password changes when they hire new employees or switch the roles of existing employees. And RBAC lets organizations quickly add or change the rules as well as implement them across the platforms. And enhanced compliance is that RBAC gives network administrators and managers the more visibility and oversight into the business. And reduced cost is nothing but by not allowing user access to certain processes and applications, companies can conserve or more cost effectively use resources such as network, all those stuff. And example is that if a software engineer who is given a role and access to only the organization software engineer like GitHub or Docker or Jenkins, he can able to only access that kind of software, right? So that is the main aim of role-based access control. I hope all might have learned the various what is meant by RBAC and how it is used into real-time applications. And we have seen the three important things like Azure RBAC, AWS IaaS, and what is that Google Cloud IAM, and the architecture of these three types of example. And we have seen the real-time applications for all these things. And the last we have seen different types of role-based access control and how it is used in the industry and as well as organization. And we have seen the advantages and the drawback of using it. I hope you have a clear idea of these kind of stuff. We will see in the next video. Thank you all.